Hi guys, I'm switching my World Ride Tenere 2022 to a newer model. I'll take the opportunity to tell you what has changed. Let's go.
I wanna taste the pain. I think I'm seeing all red. 2 bullets in the gun, 1 shot to the head. I need a blank space. 'Cause everything is a threat, but I never back down. Man, I'd rather be dead. I'm making love to fate. And she look better in bed. And I'ma rock this life till I take my last breath. I wanna make a change. I got 1 life left, so I'm gonna go down swinging. Don't you forget. Everything is so boring. Can't get up in the morning. I'm so sick of the mundane and routine. I'm gonna break without warning.
The Tenere has long been a cult motorcycle, used both on road and off-road. In recent years, it has been the most popular motorcycle sold in Europe. It's estimated that even 25% of all travel enduro bikes are Teneres from Yamaha. I've just bought the newest World Ride version. It looks great, very similar to my previous one. So it's a good moment to talk about the differences. This won't be a marketing story, but rather dry facts. I hope you'll enjoy it.
I wanna look in the mirror and like what I see. I'm sick of feeling so worthless.
I'll talk about changes visible from the outside, the changes inside, and my first impressions. First, history. I bought my first standard Tenere in 2019 as a first such motorcycle in Poland and rode about 40,000 kilometers on routes in Turkey and the mountains of Georgia. Later on, I switched to the World Ride version, on which I also reached 37,000 kilometers, still exploring the Caucasus Mountains and Armenia, as well as Turkey, which I visit regularly. And now this summer, I will test the newest version, which I bought as one of the first users in Poland. As usual, I'll be posting short videos on YouTube, Facebook and Instagram. Why do I keep choosing Yamaha? Because it's a safe choice that holds value. Because Yamaha engines pull from low revs, something high revving Chinese bikes lack. Because I prefer slightly heavier bike that I can simply load completely rather than ultralight frames for one person that can crack at any moment. In the newest World Ride, electronics return in a big way. So we have YCCC, so ride-by-wire, no throttle cables anymore, ABS, 3 modes, full, rear wheel or fully off. BC, which is a brake control system, giving, for example, cornering ABS, adjusting braking force while leaning. Power, 2 engine maps. We have 6-axis EMU, a processor giving the bike the awareness of its 3D position. We have stability slide control. We have traction control. We have cruise control. We have VSL, which is a variable speed limiter to set the speed limit. And thanks to EMU, also we have ESS, which is emergency stop signaling, means indicator that our indicators will flash during hard braking. While riding, we can change TCS and SCS and power maps. Engine maps can be adjusted only on rolled gas. What is visible on the display is shining or not shining. ABS and brake control, as usual, require stopping the bike. Riding impressions, first impressions. 3 years ago, switching from the standard 700 to the World Ride in 2022, my first impression was more comfortable seat and better working suspension. Today, getting off the old version and onto the new World Ride, I had 2 first impressions. First, rear suspension was stiff. At the 10 clicks it came with from the dealership, it was clearly too hard. I reduced it to 0 to get the comfort I'm used to. Compared to the previous model, this means the spring has been stiffened and some changes were made. So heavy riders no longer need to buy an aftermarket spring. Like in early editions, after filling the tank, the front also became softer. Second, throttle response. With ride-by-wire came two power modes, Sport and Explore. I got the bike in Explore, which was a slight delay in throttle response. In Sport it feels similar to previous version, maybe even more lively, so I ride in Sport. Explore will be for rain and mud. And it seems a bit taller. Measurements show 1 centimeter difference, but maybe it's the new tires and unbroken in springs. It's not a problem, but you have to accept touching the ground with your toes, but not with the whole foot. Display controls like temperature or trip took me a moment to figure out. The old Tenere, it was conveniently done with the right grip wheel. There we have a joystick maneuvers on the left grip and doesn't always respond immediately. What's visible from the outside? The first thing you notice is different headlight with rectangular lenses instead of round ones. I noticed the lack of LED stripe at the bottom of the headlight. Look like accountant had his say here. The new headlights are also more squarish, not like bishop type like in the previous one, like the KTM style. Where I see the difference, when the upper low beams are on, the lower ones glow slightly, so maybe that replaces the missing LED strip. The display changed. No longer 5 inches, but 6.3 inches. We also have a front brake in braided steel. Previously it was a rubber hose. The fairing is different, now taller at 150 centimeters in total, so it protects better from wind. I calculated it's like 2-3 centimeters higher. But the nicest thing, the glowing light from the headlight visible on the fairing edges at night still exists in the new version, and it looks amazing. The handbar controls are completely different. The expanded left switchgear has new indicator system, separate buttons for left and right. Thankfully both are still on the left hand, but the system is different and takes getting used to. I think they designed it to make the bike easier for new riders, but I'm not sure if they achieved that. The main changes in blinkers. First, soft touch like in cars. A light press gives 3 blinks, a stronger press turns the indicator on permanently. Problem: in motorcycle gloves, you really have to focus to press slightly. Result: I always press harder. Second, self-cancelling indicators after a turn switches off. Very useful because we often see riders unaware of their indicator is still on. But here you have to wait long, 15 seconds or ride 150 meters. I end up cancelling manually by pressing the correct button, and that correct takes attention away from riding. More on controls. Cruise control elements were added. A joystick appeared for screen navigation instead of the small wheel on the previous version. The high beam switch is in the good place and works both ways. Push for constant high beam, pull for flash. But the lever is too long. Combined with the new switchgear layout, I often accidentally turn on the high beam permanently. In the old version, high beam was controlled by a slider. On the right switchgear side, we have the starter as usual and the ride mode button. Previously, it was the starter and the display control dial. Handguards are now 2-piece. You can change their colors. I currently have a red one, but will probably switch to white. Foot pegs are slightly bigger, 2 mm wider and 2 mm longer. Better for standing. The split seat is gone. The new one is 1 centimeter narrower, making standing when riding easier. The rear plastics are also different, helping grip with your calves and allowing better transition from sitting to standing and standing to sitting. The steering damper no longer has Öhlins logo, but has a more convenient adjustment knob. The right clutch cover was redesigned so the clutch actuator does not interfere when riding standing. The standard bush plates look more solid, and interestingly, a side stand sensor was moved 15 cm higher and got a solid metal guard. So we won't have the problem of hitting a tree root in off-road and disabling the bike because the sensor broke. The fairing material also changed, I think for worse. Look how matte it used to be. Now very easy to scratch. The color you see on my old Tenere does not exist in nature. Means the previous Tenere versions, because I wrapped my black version in white 3M film. Now comparing both is easier. I just like white. Now technical changes you can see. Aluminium fuel tanks, 2 of them. The first ones were composite. Hear the sound. The new ones have a different shape, sit lower, and are supposedly 1.5 km lighter. The fuel pump is also mounted lower. Fork tubes are 3 mm thicker than the previous version, with full compression and remount adjustment like before. The new forks have Kashima coating for reduced friction and have better bump absorption and less grease of bottoming out. Engine power hasn't changed, over 73 horsepower and 68 Nm. Now it's Euro 5 Plus instead of Euro 5, with 2 instead of 1 lambda sensors, but thanks to shorter air intake, the engine should be more flexible at low RPM. A special processor with 6-axis EMU, inertial measurement unit. One of the interesting effects is calculating braking force depending on the lean angle, enabling braking in corners. What does 6-axis EMU mean? It means that 125 times per second the sensor sends information to the bike's computer, letting it understand its 3D position. Which axis? 3 accelerometer axes, front, back, left, right, up, down, and 3 gyroscope axes, lean, pitch, wheelie, and yaw when the rear wheel locks and starts overtaking you, usually ending in a high side. The battery is different, mounted horizontally and with lower capacity, 6 ampere-hours instead of the previous 8.6 ampere-hours. Gearbox changes, no longer 5 but 6 dogs per gear, and the clutch lever mechanism was moved 35 degrees forward. A larger radiator because it's covered by a larger tank. The rear suspension was completely redesigned with even more travel. The natural crash bars were reinforced with the aluminum frame. Previously it was just rubber. Build quality. On my old World Ride I still have the original chain and sprockets. No wear or stretch. On my first Tenere I had to replace them at 25,000 kilometers. So either quality improved or better materials were used in this version. The finish of details, levers, switches, compared to Chinese bikes, and most importantly, the low-end torque, the hardest thing to copy. Chinese engine need revs to move, while in off-road you need torque from the bottom, similar to big Super Tenere, where you can climb hills almost on hill, reducing the need to constantly control the throttle. How does it ride? This motorcycle forgives a lot because it's not demanding. The first versions had very little electronics, and now it's changing because the World Ride is the most advanced Tenere version. It has 230 mm front travel and 220 mm rear, that's more than standard, and it's supposedly unchanged. But for example, the rear shock piston has 5 mm more stroke. The best change is ABS deactivation on the trail. With the long press, you enter the last selected setting. Turning the bike off resets to factory settings. My favorite is only the rear wheel off. Guys, this is version for me. I have long, comfortable highway stretches in Europe and Turkey, and at the end I enjoy gravel and rough terrain. Thanks to the larger tank, I have longer range, and cruise control saves my right hand. The lightness off-road remains, because as you see, I don't add the center stand, and off-road I don't fill the tank completely. So all the genes of the Bear Tenere are still with me, now enhanced with slip control, for example. And the price. Previously I had to pay 14,000 euro for Tenere World Ride. Now, with all the electronics, the price is 13.5 thousand euro. Clearly, the attack of cheap Chinese bikes forced the margin reduction. Now it's a really good bargain.